I like to say that I'm at the back of the bus in the class. I'm the only person without an advanced degree in mathematics or computer science, and so it's been a great learning experience being with the cohort that we have this year. Particularly these two. This is Jake Laroff and John Montroy, our partners in crime for this project. So I don't really want to talk about myself because I think that you all are probably more interested in what we learned about Hillary Clinton's emails, right?
Okay, let's focus on the project then.
Great, let's do that. So, if you've been following the news media over the last year, you know that there's been a lot of discussion about Hillary Clinton and her use of her personal email server, and whether or not that's something that violated State Department rules. And so, we actually found a competition on Kaggle. And the purpose of the competition was to go through the emails that were released and to find something interesting out. So the first thing that we did in our EDA was to make sure that the competition posted on Kaggle wasn't posted by either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, to make sure there wasn't some kind of ulterior motive here. So we did learn a lot. We want to take you through how we looked at the information and what we did in order to present our findings. Just to give you a little bit of background, it did involve close to 8,000 emails that were released as a result of the Freedom of Information Act. So close to 8,000 emails were accessible through the Kaggle competition, and they called it clean data. But I think what Kaggle calls clean data is not necessarily what we would all agree is very clean. So we had some fields that include to and from, and then the body text of the actual emails, and some of those were mixed up. And so it was quite a process. The takeaway here is we did not learn whether or not Hillary was a crook or was breaking the rules, but we thought it would be useful to provide a tool to people so that they could find out for themselves, since there's so much discussion around this. And just a quick review of the information that we had to work with. We saw that there was close to 8,000 emails over a 3-year period, with a little bit more than 200 senders and a little bit less than 200 recipients. And we went through the emails and found that a lot of the information had been redacted, so the sensitive information had been taken out, and there wasn't really much to work with in terms of Benghazi or Libya, which was the key focus, right? The key focus was whether or not Sidney Blumenthal was providing information to Hillary, whereas people who were trying to call for more requests for greater security at the embassy in Benghazi were being ignored. All that stuff was cut out. So in an interest to try and find something that would be of relevance to you and to anyone else who's looking at our project, we tried to understand whether there was information about the sentiment being expressed by the people who were writing the emails, whether there are ways to look at specific topics by individual who, that were sending the emails or receiving the emails. And there were 3 tools that came out of this analysis. One was just a simple word cloud, where you could take a look at the general concentration of words used by the individuals that were most frequently found within the email lists from Hillary's block of email that was released. There was also an email person topic finder, so people could actually select specific email addresses representing people, and then choose a specific topic or set of topics using a keyword in order to find out what was most prevalent. And then there was also a sentiment analysis that was conducted. We thought it would be of relevance to people to understand how Hillary or others spoke about different people or received emails with certain sentiment from different people. All of this was conducted using a variety of different tools. So we did use NLTK and text blob and some Python, and it's being hosted on an AWS instance right now. So there was a lot of data wrangling going on, and John can talk a little bit more about that. But I'm going to jump in and show you one of the tools that we have that I just spoke about, which is the word cloud generator. And it's relatively simple. It takes the full text of the body from a specific individual, and it changes the size of the word being presented based upon the frequency within that full set of text. And this is from Hillary, and you can see that it's relatively straightforward stuff. And what you should take into account here is that the mean word count in Hillary Clinton's emails is 19. And what I just said in the last sentence was about 19 words. So there's not much that's contained in any given email that she sends. Most of it is pretty high-level management and administrative stuff. There's nothing in here that says Libya or Benghazi or national security or Iran, really, right? And perhaps it's a sign of a good manager, perhaps it's a sign of someone who doesn't want to go on record with anything, or perhaps it's a sign of the redaction that took place. Now, if we compare that to some of the other people, what's that?
Colors are relevant.
That's her logo.
That's just it's for
arrow.
readability, so that and for prettiness. But I thought you might actually ask about the odd shape that we had chosen. Does anyone know what the shape is? From it's Hillary's logo. Yes, it is. Just for fun, right? Because you have to have a little fun while you're doing this stuff. So Sidney Blumenthal, the man that everyone was speaking about, what did Sidney's emails have to do with? Well, they had to do principally with Obama and a lot of political topics, right? So things that are really representative of Hillary's interest in the election. As many of you may know, Sidney Blumenthal has been an advisor to the Clintons for the last 20 years and has helped them navigate the political scene as they've sought their different positions in office. So a little bit about policy and Obama and some Israel in there, Netanyahu, and showing the challenges that we had with the data cleanliness. You can see SBWHOEOP, which is Sidney's email address. So Sidney's trying to help them get elected and stay in office, and that's what he should be doing, right? Nothing in there that seems untoward. If we take a look at Huma, which is the second to last one, Huma is an aide to Hillary, and during the period during which most of this email was drawn, she was at the same level as another individual, which we'll talk about in a minute, Jake Sullivan. And Huma, again, mostly talking about setting up different meetings for her with the president today, tomorrow, the state, so-and-so called. There you have it. We're going to go to Jake Sullivan, who's now Hillary's he's actually her foreign policy advisor for the current campaign for president. And he does actually have a little bit more of a foreign policy and foreign focus in what he talks about Iran, the nuclear deal that's going on that he actually brokered. So all in all, not very useful other than to get an idea of people's roles and how they communicated with the other folks on their team. Nothing earth-shattering here. If we want to take a look at Hillary's assistant, you'll see that most of it is about meeting times, arriving, and so on. No breakthrough here, and we'd hope that perhaps sentiment analysis and/or an exploration of the topics that were involved in the emails might take us a little bit closer to uncovering some gold. So we'll let my colleague, my partner here, Jake, take over some of that.
Thanks, Chris. Moving towards some heavier analysis, but we're not there yet. We're going to do some more fun word stuff. So what we have here is we can pick. This is a list of the people who wrote the emails. We can pick different writers and type in any words we want and see the count of emails that those people that included that word that we typed in for those people. We could search all sorts of stuff. I'll get us started, and then I'm going to look for your participation to shout out some words that I will type in. Let's just start with how do people refer to the president? So, President Obama. Does anyone say POTUS? Does anyone first name basis? Any other suggestions for that?
Mr. Fancy Pants.
Mr. Fancy Pants. Okay, so let's just pick a few people, some of the top people, and see who says what. Sidney Blumenthal is very formal. It looks like he's always saying President Obama. It's hard to tell between purple and blue. Sorry about that. Purple's towards the right. Hillary's the only one saying POTUS, mostly. And Sidney is one of the only ones who's going with the first name, which is kind of interesting. But it's since he's like a family friend to the Clintons, maybe he feels it. Let's throw in some other words and kind of see what else we can find.
I thought one thing that was interesting just from these words is that it seems that Hillary has a hard time saying the name Barack. So she refers to him as president or POTUS, anything other than his given name. Maybe there's some tension there.
What would people like to see might have been used in these emails? Some words. Benghazi.
Mm.
Anything else? Let's throw Libya in there with Benghazi.
How about please or PLS?
Okay. Please versus S or Z? What do we think? Z, right?
Yes.
Both.
Okay. Please. All right, let's start with that. That's a good one. Again, same kind of top people. All right, so what have we learned? Hillary's really good about saying please, but she's quick about it. Obviously, the scale makes this very difficult, but
So let's do it again.
let's do it without PLS and see if we can dive in a little more. So we got Benghazi. Oh, and just get rid of. So smart. Let's get rid of PLZ too. Okay, please. All right. So, really, we're looking at Benghazi and Libya now. Sorry, please, it's still there. So, Sidney Blumenthal, who, as Chris was mentioning, it was such a controversy. Like, why was he involved in so many emails about Benghazi when there were apparently hundreds of emails in her inbox asking for support that she, we don't need to go there exactly, but there was controversy there. And in fact, Sidney Blumenthal sent 6 emails that, nope, that's please. Sent 2 emails that mentioned Benghazi and 5 that mentioned Libya.
See, there's a caveat, if I can jump in. There's a caveat about this data, which is coming down to what Chris was mentioning about the redaction and those sorts of problems in the data. Sidney Blumenthal may have been emailing about these topics around the time of Benghazi and whatnot, but that data, when you actually look at this data set, Sidney Blumenthal's emails were mostly concentrated in 2011, before then. So the lower amount of counts is maybe a reflection of redaction.
Good point. Thank you. All right, let's do one more of these, if you guys. Sorry? Profanities? Just the word profanities. I don't think that's going to come up.
Let's try F-bomb. Yeah. We're all adults here.
We've never done this. We're using these tools too, so we've never
Yeah,
tried.
So as was mentioned, this is on an AWS instance, so I do hope that we can share this with you so you all can play and type in whatever words come to mind for you.
Wiener.
That's, yeah. Bill, great.
Print.
Yeah, so a fun one is if you just do like print, meeting, T, who is actually doing like these minute tasks for her. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, as you saw, Hillary Clinton's word cloud. Print,
Coffee.
very prominent. Please print.
What's funny is coffee is almost never there and tea is there a lot, so I'm adding tea in. So we'll do this last one and then I'm going to pass it over to John to talk sentiments. All right, so what do we have? Yeah, Hillary does not print her own stuff. This is what we're learning. Also, keep in mind that none of this is scaled for the number of emails they sent, that are part of the data set. Hillary sent about 2,000. These were all under 400. So keep that in mind when you think scale. But let's see.
Huma.
Huma.
Put a wiener in there.
Well, I wonder why.
Oh, and Hillary.
Hmm.
That's interesting.
They're married, right? That's the thing?
Yes.
Yes.
And everyone is talking about tea. So I mean, these are it. Huh?
Tea party?
Tea party.
Could be.
Try.
This doesn't do.
It's still the human aspect of data analysis, right?
That's
So
right.
party
Machines
ethics.
won't replace us yet,
Let's see.
even though some of the folks who will be presenting afterwards might suggest otherwise.
Sidney Blumenthal.
Sidney Blumenthal. 9 emails about the tea party. No one else. So it really was tea. All right. So again, it's exploratory. I know this was a machine learning meetup, but it was a Kaggle competition. So we are just looking to have some fun with data because data is fun and we're cool. So I'm going to pass it over to John to bring us through sentiment analysis.
Sure. So I'm going to go through sentiment analysis a little bit with our last tool here, and then also spend a little bit of time on some of the technical aspects of this. The code is available, GitHub, open source as usual, so if you're interested, happy to follow up on that. So the sentiment analysis. This is a little confusing, so I'm just going to generate some plots and tell you what we're looking at. So we have 2 plots here. The one on the left is sentiment for Hillary Clinton. Now, we did the sentiment analysis using TextBlob. Now, TextBlob, like any other sentiment analysis thing, is sort of backed by a dictionary of sentiment. These are labels. It's sort of supervised learning that's done originally. And then you have your corpus that you put into it, and it compares to those labels word by word. It's tokenizing for anyone who's familiar with these sort of NLP things. And it builds the sentiment off of that. Now, TextBlob is great because it has a built-in dictionary of sentiment. That it's sort of a generic run-of-the-mill sentiment thing. The thing that would enhance this and that we're looking to do is try to build a dictionary based off of the actual corpus of these emails. So there's sentiment that's specific to these emails, right? So if you build a dictionary of sentiment and then label the sentiment based off of that, you will start getting better and better results. But TextBlob, sort of generic sentiment analysis at first, and it shows Hillary, on a scale of 1 to -1, where 1 is a positive sentiment, -1 is a negative sentiment, Hillary generally tends to be positive. Now, why would that be? We saw from the word clouds that Hillary's emails are kind of boilerplate and generic, and she asks people to print a lot. There's not a lot of scintillating stuff in there that could be really good or bad. So she tends generally positive. How does Hillary Clinton feel about people? We thought would be a more interesting question. So once again, using TextBlob on a scale of 1 to -1, we take the emails sent by Hillary Clinton to these people, Sidney Blumenthal, Huma, and so on and so forth, and we get the sentiment of those. And it reflects the general distribution of Hillary's overall sentiment, and that she's pretty chipper to everyone. She's a little more chipper towards Sidney Blumenthal and Cheryl Mills, and not so much towards Jake Sullivan, which I think you referred to tension before, who knows. But this tool will allow you to start looking at these sort of things. So let's look at another person. Let's look at Huma, and let's see how she feels about, well, who does people want to see? Who do people want to see? Go with Hillary, Sidney.
Can we look at Lauren
Lauren
Gelati,
Gelati?
who's
Sure.
the assistant, see if she's
Yeah.
nice to her?
Oh,
Who is nice to the
Sorry,
assistant
who's nice?
is really important.
Say again?
What year are these emails from?
The whole set is 2009 to 2012.
Oh.
So we'll go with that set and see how that does. So we have the sentiment for Huma, who is not quite as positive as Hillary, but generally still positive. So the blank here means that Huma never sent an email that was to Sidney Blumenthal, which is the way it goes. But Jake Sullivan, who is, I believe, the same rank level as Huma, has a very, very positive sentiment with Huma. Lauren Gelati, the executive assistant, not so much. Hillary, just fine. So we can start playing around with how these people interact with each other on an actual sort of sentiment analysis way. Let's do one more. Just once again, we're playing with these tools too, which is the entire point. So let's do, I don't know.
You have Bill Clinton.
No, Bill Clinton wasn't really in these emails at all.
Huh.
So let's do Jake
I would
Sullivan.
imagine that she does use her personal email account for those emails.
I hope so.
Bad experience.
Jake Sullivan. Ooh, that's interesting.
that
We
is
haven't
very
seen that
interesting.
before. So Jake Sullivan is not a big fan of Cheryl Mills, apparently.
And Cheryl
So-
Mills is his boss. So
Yeah, that's true. So there's a little tension there. We got our sentiment. So generally, Jake is a more neutral guy. Hillary is very positive. Huma is generally upbeat. Jake runs a little more in the middle. And we can see that no emails here, no emails here. Fine with Huma, same level. Fine towards Hillary, everyone's boss. And not so good with Cheryl.
How does
So
Cheryl feel about you?
how does
Yeah,
Cheryl
that-
feel about Jake? Let's find out. Hillary.
No one here is a reporter for the Post, are they?
almost 0.
Pretty close to 0. So
It's mutual.
yeah, I mean she's also pretty neutral overall, but it seems like it's semi-mutual then. Yeah, we can go with that. So once again, another tool, go into a little bit more NLP analysis that allows you to explore this. So I mean, these tools, we're expanding on them. We're still generating ideas. We're going to put this out there so you guys can play with it if you feel fit. We're going to post it to Kaggle, see what people can unearth. As you just saw, we didn't know about that negative sentiment between. So there's plenty to find out with the right sort of framework. On a last sort of note, just one more aside about the code. This whole thing that you're looking at right here was built in Flask. Flask is a micro framework. It's sort of full stack Python. So the back end of this is just a MySQL database that's hosted on Amazon Cloud Services again. Flask is doing all this sort of stuff. We've got streaming images through Flask. None of these are saved anywhere, being called up. We're all doing this all on the fly. So it's just matplotlib plots being called out through Flask. And I think that's all I should really say about the technical stuff for now, but Flask is great because you have the entire internet of tools at your disposal. If anyone's heard of Bootstrap, which is a great HTML, CSS, JavaScript sort of package, all of that is at your fingertips with Flask. You can just plug it right in, see the great sort of layouts that people have made, and work with that. So it was a challenge working with Flask and these sorts of tools, but it was very rewarding because once we got things up and running, there was a lot we could do with it. You know, once we got the basic streaming and the format, you can just plug in these tools as you develop the Python code for these plots. So I'd recommend it. It's a bit of a learning curve, but it's a lot of fun once you get the hang of it.
Can you
so.
make the Google API so everyone can just put in their email and see who they can be communicate with? What's the sentiment toward those people?
I didn't follow.
Google API, so you
You
can
know something
post
about
Gmail.
So yes,
The-
so in order to do that, people would have to allow access to their emails. I don't know
Oh.
how easy that is to do. They would either have to manually cut and paste, but they're just Google's.
Actually, sorry to interrupt. Avi and I were talking about this earlier. Avi is another member of the Data Science Academy. You'll meet him later. But we were talking about this earlier. There's a thing called Context.io, a company that focuses on exactly this, that allows access to most major email servers, and we'll plug into those email servers, pull out your emails, and get it in a workable form for you. And I imagine they do some analysis. We've just started playing with it. But to hopefully see where you're going with that, you could plug in your own emails into a tool like this.
I think that's what Vivian was saying, right?
Yeah.
There was a startup called Crystal Ball. You can see
Oh, I remember that.
how you work with people, how you respond to people.
Yeah. And then
It's a
you can-
startup business.
I mean, imagine you're trying to see how relationships are and try to catch things before they even pop out. I mean, a sentiment analysis would be a great way to do that sort of thing. You see
Match.com,
visually.
Tinder, recruiting sites.
We're just getting
you know,
started,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's endless.
But